Just from Japan. Hey.
Welcome to Japan. This is the first time.
This is my first time, yeah. I'm really happy to be here. This microphone really makes no noise. Especially if you're a bit cold and you're shaking a bit. Yeah.
It's just an extra display, so.
Yeah. I already knew it from yesterday, so yeah. But it's also cold yesterday and today as well. Too late in the year to do that. Oh yeah. Still nice. Okay. I'm going to do that.
Everyone. So up next, Claudia Herna about the future of package management.
Konnichiwa. First of all, thank you very much for having me here today. I'm very, very excited to be speaking at this from Japan, so thank you to the organizers. And today I'm going to be speaking about the NPM CLI. But first of all, who am I? Who is this girl that is right now on the stage? 私はクラウデです。私はメキシコ人です。私は NPM で語ります。That's about, thank you very much. Sadly, that's about the only Japanese I know, so the rest of the talk is going to be in English. The first minutes of this talk, I really want to talk about the new processes the CLI team has been putting in place lately. And so let the first minutes be a little bit of an introduction. So you have probably heard a lot of things about NPM in the past couple of months. But to be honest, the only thing you should care about is the new awesome team, CLI team that we have in place. And the person in middle, Isaac, you might recognize him as the creator of NPM. He's still giving a lot of technical expertise to the team. He's our current technical lead. Here on the right, you can see Darcy Clark. Darcy Clark is the manager of the CLI team, and I'm going to be speaking a bit about the things that he has been putting in place lately. A lot of new processes and flows to make the work of the CLI team more transparent and communicative. And Mike, Roy, and I and myself are the developers that are in charge of maintaining the CLI and the open source libraries maintained by NPM. So maybe some of you have heard of NPM Community. NPM Community used to be this forum in which you can file bugs and request features. NPM Community has been archived right now. And in place of NPM Community, we actually opened the issue tracker on the GitHub CLI repo. So historically at NPM, the issues on the CLI repo were closed, but now they're open again. So if you have any bugs, errors, or things you want to track, you can do it directly over there. And the NPM community page now, it's just this landing page that gives you access to different things that we have put in place, and I'm going to be talking about in a minute. So make sure to check this landing page to see all of the things that I'm going to be speaking about right now. We also have this NPM status board, which is basically this website that has all of the open source libraries that NPM currently maintains. So NPM is not only about the CLI repo, we have a lot of other open source libraries that we maintain, and in case you want to see which are they, you can find them in this website. I'm going to be sharing the slides later so you can see the URL, so don't worry. We also have our GitHub project board, so this is also a way of being more transparent with the community and show them what we're working on. So in this project board, you can actually check what we're working on every single day, and you can check if we're working on your favorite new feature. We also have a public events calendar in which we're going to be putting every single event that is related to NPM. So as you might see here, the event at JS Japan is also registered. We also started doing open RFC meetings in which you can actually join online and you can talk about proposals that you have written or features that you would like having on the CLI. And these events are doing bi-weekly. And in case you want to know at what time they're in, you can check the public events calendar. And last but not least, maybe some of you have seen it on Twitter, we have a new CLI's website. You can check all of the documentation over there. And just, this hasn't been launched yet. It's going to be launched soon. But if you want to get a glimpse of what that looks like, you can actually download the latest CLI and just a very brief demo. So in the latest CLI, if you do npm help, whatever command, and then you pass the flag viewer and then browser. It's open on my other screen. Yeah, you can have offline access to the npm CLI docs. So that's cool. It's just a redesign, but in case you weren't aware, you can browse it offline now. Yeah, so that was the introductory part of the talk. So what does npm do anyways? I'm pretty sure most of you have used npm, but what do we do in a very, very simplistic sense? npm in a nutshell is just about fetching libraries from somewhere and caching them on your computer, right? You're fetching these libraries because you want to have them on your computer to build amazing projects. And that's pretty much what npm does for you. So the question is, how do we do fetching at npm? I want to introduce you this library. It's called Pacochi, and this is npm's fetcher. This is the library that the npm CLI uses to fetch things from the registry. Now, Pacochi, in case you were wondering, it means it's Portuguese for package. It's a node library, as I mentioned, for npm compatible packages for fetching. And it has several features like local cache, offline mode, authentication support, and it's also compliant with GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. And before I start talking a little bit more about this library that does fetching for us, I want to just very quickly clarify these three important vocabulary that we use internally at npm. And the first one is document, which stands for package and document. Document is just a general metadata about a project on the registry. Basically, it's this big JSON document that holds all of the information about a package. It might include the authors, the tags, the date it was released, and other important metadata that we use in order to download these things. The second is manifest. It's very similar to document, but manifest is for a specific version of the package. And last but not least, we have corgis, which are just summarized documents. And this is what the Pacochi API looks like. And as you can see, we have methods for retrieving the manifest of a package, the document of a package. To extract, we have another method for extracting the contents of a package in your computer. Pacochi resolve is for getting the URL in which the tarball that holds all of the files of a package is. And we also have Pacochi tarball, which will retrieve the tarball from the registry as a promise, or as a string, or it will write those contents on a file. And this brings the next question. Where do we actually fetch things from? And you probably use just the public npm registry, but you can also fetch things from a GitHub repo or GitLab. You can do it from a local file, as long as it resolves to a tarball, from a local directory, or from a remote URL, again, as long as it resolves to a tarball file. And how do we make sure at npm that what you're retrieving, what you're fetching, is exactly what you intended to fetch? So I really just want to quickly talk about integrity and SHASM. SHASM is the checksum of the package that is generated. This means like SHASM is a string of characters that is generated when you apply a mathematical algorithm in the contents of a file. So if this file changes by a single bit, the SHASM will be different. And this is a way of telling that the file has been compromised, and therefore it has been manipulated, and it's not the file that you intended to download in the first place. The second value is integrity, which is a hash that we create also at npm during publish time, that enables npm, again, to verify that what you're downloading is exactly what you wanted to download in the first place. And I really hope this is visible. This is just an example of the manifest for React version 16.11. And this is data that is included there. You can see the integrity value, the SHASM. You can see the tarball URL where you can fetch that tarball, and other different data. Again, the default algorithm for the integrity value is SHA-512. Both the integrity and the SHASM are built when you're publishing your package to the registry. And basically what happens is the npm CLI will check the values of the package when it arrives on your local cache. And that your local cache, if you have already fetched this library, it will hold the integrity value and it will check. And last but not least, if the integrity on the registry is different to the one that you have on your cache or on your package lock, you will have an integrity error. So the thing is that the SHASM and the integrity values are very important for determining, as I keep mentioning, that what you're trying to fetch and what you're trying to download is exactly what you want it to do, and it hasn't been compromised. So, of course, at npm, we have a library that handles integrity. So again, if you ever have trouble with integrity values and you want to file a bug, this is the place you can start looking at. And in the latest version of Pacochi, you can actually now install it globally and use a CLI. Isaac wrote a CLI for Pacochi, so you can actually interact with it directly. And I wanted, again, to do a very quick demo. And since I wasn't sure I would have Wi-Fi, I prepared it. So just... I'm going to make it bigger. So if I do, so this is the help for the Pacochi CLI. As you can see, it says the JavaScript package handler. Hope that's big enough. And it has several methods. You can get the URL of a tarball. You can do Pacote manifest and get the manifest for a specific package. You can do Pacote packment, get the packment. You can get the tarball, and you can also extract packaged contents directly on your computer. And as I told you, I had prepared a demo already in case there wasn't Wi-Fi, so I'm just going to show you the results. So if you do Pacoche resolve React, for example, it will show you the URL for that specific package. If you don't give any arguments, if you just write React, it will download the latest version of the package, the one that is on the latest stack. If you do Pacoche packment, you can also see that it will retrieve an object that has an object of versions. And for every single version of that package, in this case React, you can see some metadata there. Well, this is the packment, so it has a lot of information from all of the versions of React. I'm just scrolling down. There are too many versions. So if you also do, for example, Pacoche manifest as I mentioned, is the metadata for a specific version of the package. So in this case, is for the latest version of React, which is 16.12. And you can see dependencies, you can see if it has a shrink wrap file, you can see the information that I mentioned earlier, like integrity, Shazam, the tarball URL, and another type of metadata. So all of this is right now available if you feel like checking and inspecting what that looks like by using Pacoche, and you can just install it globally in your computer. So npm install Pacoche. And moreover, I'm not going to go into detail into these libraries, but these are libraries used by Pacoche and by the CLI to do fetching as well. And as I told you, there are so many libraries maintained by npm and so many libraries used around the CLI ecosystem that there are just too many to share. So for example, this one, npm package art, is just a library that is the one in charge of telling of whatever argument you pass to the CLI. It will tell you if this is a package that has to be retrieved from the CLI, from the registry, from Git, from your local directory, or from a remote URL. There is also npm pick manifest. This library is the one who is actually in charge of doing semantic versioning resolving. So depending on whatever rules you write on your package JSON, this is the actual library who decides which is the right version to fetch according to the rules you wrote on the package JSON. There is also npm registry fetch. This is just a library that is a helper for fetching from registries. And last but not least, there is make fetch happen. This is just a wrapper around node fetch that adds some extra functionalities like cache support using this other library that I'm going to be talking about in a sec. It has request pooling, it has retries, and the way it works is Pacoche uses npm registry fetch, and npm registry fetch uses make fetch happen. Make fetch happen is the library that does the raw fetching of the packages. It's the one who's actually making the calls. So I have talked already about fetching. So how do we do caching at npm? And I want to introduce Kakash. Kakash is another library that we maintain at npm. That is the one that is in charge of the actual caching. So as I mentioned, it's npm's local cache. It can extract by key or content. It has content deduplication, garbage collection, offline support, and a bunch of different features. You can check out the cache on GitHub as well. And this is the cache API, and the only thing you have to know is that it has a bunch of methods. It has methods for listing cache elements on your computer, for getting an item from the cache, for removing that item, for checking information of that item, from removing everything from the cache, etc. Now, perhaps you are more familiar with this CLI command, the npm cache command. And to be honest, it's a little bit limiting. The npm cache command only has 3 options. It has npm cache add, which allows you to add things to your local cache. It has npm cache clean, which basically will remove everything that is on the cache. And the last one is npm cache verify, which will check, it will do some garbage collecting, and it will also make sure that all of the integrities are right on your cache. So where does this live actually in your computer? If you're using a Mac or Linux, this is on a hidden folder called .npm. That's where your cache lives. And if you're using Windows, it's under app data npm cache. So as I was mentioning right now, the npm cache command is a little bit limiting. It doesn't have a lot of things. So it's hard to inspect directly what the contents of your cache right now. And the only way to directly manage it is using Kakash, the folder that I just mentioned. And again, I want to do a quick demo. I chose the wrong one. Anyway, you can download the Kakash library, and you can use the methods directly on your computer to check the contents of it. So, and this is the caching part. So as I mentioned, I talked a little bit about how we do fetching at NPM, how we do caching, and this talk is actually called NPM Next and Beyond. So now I really want to talk about the next things that are going to be on the CLI. And this is supposed to say roadmap. I really hope it does. Good. So NPM's roadmap. So starting from NPM 7, we're now at NPM 6 and we're working on the next version of the CLI, number 7. We're working on this library called arborist. And arborist is just an NPM install refactor. It will replace several libraries, read package tree, NPM logical tree, libcipm, and some code that also lives on the CLI repo. And basically this library is meant to make your installs faster. And what is actually the problem that arborist is trying to solve? Right now it seems that npm install reads the package.json file a lot of times. Therefore it does a lot of computing. And what arborist is trying to do with this new refactor is trying to read the package tree as less as possible. Therefore making the installations faster. And if you are interested in arborist, again, it's open source, it's open in the wild, you can go check it out, you can make changes, pull requests, everything is accepted. We are also giving first-class support to symbolic links. So instead of sym-linking globally and then using that global link into your local modules, links are going to be linked directly. And what is really interesting about this feature and what is really exciting is that this will allow us finally to provide this feature. That it's a feature that a lot of you have been asking, people that are maintainers of monorepos, and NPM didn't have that feature until now. So for those of you that uses monorepos, which is basically these code bases in which different packages live there, this is something that NPM is paying attention to right now. And we realized this was really important because there is currently a lot of projects that are using this approach, like Babel, Jest, React, Vue, Angular, and we know that Yarn has this feature already, so we knew that we have to deliver this as soon as possible. So a little bit more about workspaces. We know that workspaces will give discovery, access control, and versioning. It's going to make them easier because everything lives in the same code repo. And as I was mentioning, the most popular solution right now is Yarn workspaces in use with association with Lerna. But yeah, the news, as I mentioned, is that we're going to give first-class support to monorepos on NPM 7. It's going to have the same features as Yarn. It will allow dependencies to be linked together, hoisting of dependencies, and using a single lock file. So why are we excited about this? Because it's going to allow lighter installations by preventing package duplication. It will ensure consistency. And in the future, we're also thinking of having a single command to do everything. A single command to do building, to do versioning, to do managing permissions, and publishing of all of your dependencies. We also have this new feature, npm ls location. So right now we have npm ls package, which will show you all of the packages that depend on that package. But in npm 7, we're going to have npm ls location that will allow you to show all of the packages that depend on that specific package at that location, under that path. And you can also give logical or physical path, and it's going to work. And we have more and more exciting things coming on npm 7. We're going to be able as well we're going to give yarn.lock compatibility. So you're going to be able to use the same file with npm CLI. We're also dropping support for Node 6 because we want to be able to use new features. And last but not least, I wanted to make a quick question. Who of you have heard about tink? Some of you. Okay. So what does tink mean either way in English? Tink is actually a knitting term. And it's when you undo a row of knitting one stitch at a time in order to correct a mistake. But what does tink mean in the context of NPM? So imagine tink being a way of fetching your libraries from the registry, and instead of storing them on a node models, they are going to be stored directly on your cache, and they're going to be served on the cache. So if you want to know more about npm tink, this is upcoming on npm version 8, so not 7. There is a really cool talk by Kat Marchand. She gave it at the JSConf Europe this year, in which she explains more into detail what tink is. But this is what you have to know so far, that we're planning on shipping it by npm 8. And with that being said, I really hope you learned something today. Arigato gozaimasu. And I brought stickers and socks. So if you want stickers and socks, just ping me, and I'll be very happy to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claudia. That was very interesting. We'll have a 15-minute break until 2:15. Afterwards, we'll be learning a lot more about GraphQL. 2時15分から続きます。GraphQL です。
寒いよ。